Have you ever met someone who stays unbelievably calm when life falls apart? The kind of person who can crack a joke in the middle of a disaster, who somehow finds a reason to smile while everyone else is panicking. At first, it looks like confidence. But look a little closer. What you're seeing may not be confidence at all. It may be survival. Because the people who laugh the hardest are often the ones who fought battles they'll never fully explain. Battles that didn't just hurt them. They changed the way their brain sees the world. Here's the strange part. When someone cuts them off on a busy freeway in Los Angeles, or snaps at them during a stressful day in New York, they don't immediately explode with anger. Instead, their mind quietly asks a different question. Asterisk, I wonder what they're carrying that I can't see. Asterisk. That kind of thinking doesn't come from being naive. It comes from knowing what invisible pain feels like. And once you've survived enough storms, you stop assuming everyone else is enjoying sunshine. Today's video isn't just about trauma. It's about what happens after trauma. Why some people don't simply survive life's hardest chapters. They come out with a completely different way of understanding people, relationships, and even themselves. By the end of this video, you may recognize these patterns in someone you love. Or you may realize you've been living with them your entire life without ever having the words to describe them. Before we dive in, if you enjoy psychology videos that go beyond surface-level advice and help you truly understand human behavior, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a future upload. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Whether it's the United States, Canada, the UK, or somewhere else in the world. I read your comments, and they help shape future videos. Now let's begin. One of the biggest misconceptions about people who've endured years of emotional pain is that they're broken. They're not. They're adapted. There's a massive difference. Your brain is designed to keep you alive, not to keep you comfortable. When life repeatedly throws you into unpredictable situations, your mind begins creating new ways to protect you. Over time, those survival strategies become automatic. What once kept you safe slowly becomes part of your personality. That's why people who've been through intense hardship often notice things others completely miss. Imagine you're sitting in a coffee shop in Seattle. Most people are focused on their phones, their laptops, or the conversation at their table. But someone who's lived through prolonged emotional stress notices something else entirely. The forced smile from the barista. The hesitation before someone answers a phone call. The couple sitting across the room who haven't looked each other in the eyes for the last 10 minutes. These details seem invisible to everyone else. Not because others aren't paying attention. But because this person's brain has spent years learning that tiny emotional shifts can mean everything. For them, reading people isn't a talent. It became a survival skill. That's why they're often the first to sense when something feels off. You might hear a perfectly normal sentence. They hear the emotion hiding underneath it. You notice silence. They notice whether that silence feels heavy, anxious, disappointed, or exhausted. You walk into a room and see people. They walk into the same room and feel the emotional climate before anyone says a single word. It almost feels like a sixth sense. But it's not magic. It's experience. It's the result of spending years learning to read environments where emotional safety could change without warning. Ironically, the very experiences that once wounded them also sharpened their ability to understand others. And that's where something remarkable begins to happen. Because pain doesn't always make people colder. Sometimes. It makes them extraordinarily compassionate. Most people assume suffering makes a person hard. Sometimes it does. But surprisingly often, it creates the exact opposite. It creates people who become incredibly gentle with everyone around them. Not because life has been gentle with them. But because it hasn't. They know exactly how a few careless words can echo in someone's mind for years. So they choose their words carefully. They know what it feels like to wish someone had simply asked. Asterisk, are you really okay? Asterisk. So they become the person who asks. And here's where psychology offers something fascinating. Researchers have spent years studying why certain people don't simply recover from adversity, they actually grow because of it. This phenomenon is known as post-traumatic growth. It doesn't mean trauma is good. It means some people discover strengths they never knew existed because they were forced to rebuild themselves from the ground up. Their priorities become crystal clear. They stop chasing things that only impress strangers. Status. Validation. Endless comparisons. Instead, they begin protecting something much more valuable. Peace. That's why you'll often notice they appreciate ordinary moments in ways that seem almost unusual. A quiet walk through Central Park. A sunset over the California coast. Coffee with someone they genuinely trust. A phone call from a loved one. Moments many people rush past. They experience deeply. Because once you've lived through enough uncertainty, ordinary days begin to feel extraordinary. But healing doesn't erase everything. Some survival habits never completely disappear. One of the biggest is hypervigilance. Think of it like a home security system. Most people's system turns on only when there's real danger. For someone who's lived through prolonged emotional stress, the alarm never fully switches off. Even when life becomes peaceful. Even when nothing is wrong. Their nervous system keeps scanning. Looking. Checking. Preparing. You may notice it in surprisingly small ways. They prefer sitting where they can see the entrance of a restaurant. They double-check that every door is locked before going to bed. They arrive early because being late makes them anxious. They always have a backup plan. And usually a backup for the backup. To everyone else, it looks excessive. To them, it feels responsible. Because their brain learned one painful lesson long ago. Asterisk, the moment you stop paying attention, something can go wrong. Asterisk. Another thing people rarely notice is how often these individuals minimize their own pain. Ask them about their past, and you'll hear answers like, asterisk, it wasn't that bad. Asterisk. Asterisk, other people had it much worse. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm fine now. Asterisk. At first, it sounds like humility. But many psychologists believe it's something deeper. For years, they survived by convincing themselves they could handle whatever happened. Admitting how much something hurt feels unfamiliar. Sometimes even unsafe. Because somewhere inside them, vulnerability became associated with danger. So instead of asking for help, they carry everything alone. They become experts at supporting everyone else's emotional needs while quietly ignoring their own. Ironically, the strongest-looking person in the room is often the one carrying the heaviest invisible weight. And nowhere does this contradiction become more obvious than in relationships. Because the people who love the hardest are often the same people who find it hardest to let themselves be loved. If you've ever cared about someone like this, you've probably noticed something that feels almost impossible to explain. They're incredibly dependable. Yet strangely difficult to truly know. Call them at 2 o'clock in the morning because your car broke down on a freezing winter night in Chicago. There's a good chance they'll be on their way before you've even finished explaining where you are. Need someone to stand beside you when your world is falling apart? They'll be there. No questions. No excuses. But ask them a simple question like, asterisk, how are you doing? Asterisk. And suddenly, the conversation changes. Asterisk, I'm good. Asterisk. Asterisk, don't worry about me. Asterisk. Asterisk, it's nothing. Asterisk. It's not because they don't trust you. It's because, somewhere along the way, they learned that depending on other people could become painful. For them, independence wasn't a personality trait. It was survival. Their nervous system quietly learned a dangerous equation. Needing people can lead to disappointment. So they became the person who needed no one. From the outside, it looks like incredible strength. On the inside, it can become one of the loneliest ways to live. And yet, hidden inside this contradiction is another remarkable gift. People who've survived repeated adversity usually become exceptionally adaptable. A sudden career change. They'll figure it out. Moving across the country. Scary, but manageable. Life doesn't go according to plan. They've rebuilt their life before. They know they can do it again. Most people panic because uncertainty feels unfamiliar. For them, uncertainty feels strangely familiar. Not comfortable. Just familiar. That's why they often stay calmer than everyone else during genuine crises. While others freeze. Their mind quietly begins solving problems. Because chaos is a language they've already learned to speak. Then there's something else people often misunderstand. Their sense of humor. If you've noticed, they laugh at situations that seem unbelievably dark. It isn't because they don't take life seriously. It's because humor became one of the healthiest ways they found to survive it. Every joke creates a little distance from the pain. Every laugh reminds them that suffering doesn't get the final word. Psychologically, humor can become an emotional release valve. It lowers stress, creates perspective, and gives the brain a moment to breathe. For many survivors, laughing isn't denial. It's resilience. But perhaps the most fascinating contradiction appears in how they handle control. They may spend 10 minutes deciding which coffee mug to use. Yet stay surprisingly calm while waiting for life-changing medical results. They'll organize every detail of a weekend trip. But accept major uncertainty with remarkable composure. Why? Because experience taught them a difficult truth. Some things will always remain outside your control. Fighting reality only creates more suffering. So instead of trying to control everything, they focus on the few things they actually can. Their habits. Their values. Their reactions. Their integrity. That isn't weakness. It's wisdom earned through experience. Still, there's one invisible wound almost nobody talks about. These people aren't only grieving what happened to them. Many are quietly grieving the version of themselves that existed before life became so heavy. The version that trusted people without hesitation. The version that walked into a room without scanning for danger. The version that slept peacefully. Loved freely. Dreamed without expecting disappointment. Sometimes they miss a person they can barely remember. The younger self who believed the world was mostly safe. The self who didn't constantly rehearse conversations. Or prepare for worst-case scenarios. It's a quiet grief. One that rarely has words. Yet it shapes everything. It teaches them to treasure peaceful homes over impressive houses. Safe relationships over exciting ones. Authenticity over appearances. Depth over popularity. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. People who've been through more than most don't become extraordinary because life was easy. They become extraordinary because they refuse to let hardship define the end of their story. Every setback taught them perspective. Every disappointment taught them compassion. Every scar became proof that healing is possible. Like a lighthouse standing on a rugged coastline, they don't shine because they've avoided storms. They shine because they've survived them. They know darkness. They remember uncertainty. And that's exactly why their light reaches people who are still searching for their way home. So the next time you meet someone who's unusually calm during chaos. Someone who notices emotions before words. Someone who laughs in the middle of difficult seasons. Don't mistake it for luck. Don't mistake it for fearlessness. You're looking at someone whose hardest chapters became their greatest teacher. Someone who transformed survival into wisdom. Pain into compassion. And resilience into hope. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more psychology deep dives, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. And if you'd like to support the channel and help us create more thoughtful content like this, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember. Sometimes the strongest people aren't the ones who never broke. They're the ones who learned how to rebuild themselves, again and again.